We mentioned we're on Chav Gimel Malach 23a. Good morning, Mr. Betesh. Masnite mani on the right side where it starts the new paragraph. Matniten mani. Who is the author of the Mishnah? Meaning the Mishnah made a statement. And the question is, the Gemara says you should know, the Mishnah does not identify. And the Gemara says you should know, I want to tell you, I'm going to identify opinion. It's not that everybody holds this way. The Mishnah has a letter that's the halacha. So the Gemara says, Masnita mani, who Mishnah? If you look at the Mishnah, right? You see in the Mishnah, it says the opening of the Mishnah. On the top of that ha'oseh, you see a little letter hey on the word ha'oseh. A little letter. That letter takes you to a commentary. Okay. That note identifies with the halacha. It's called the Ein Mishpat, the eye of the law, and that tells you where this is found in halacha. And it says that let's say by the case of on top of the camel or on top of the tree, it says this is it quotes where the Rambam is and where the Shulchan Aruch is. And if it's found in the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, that most likely means that is the halacha. Okay, because the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch is of Yosef Kairo, what the law is. So therefore, it tells you where it's found, this law. Okay. The Gemara says the following. Maslisa Mani, who is the author of the Mishnah? So the Gemara says, means because the Gemara did not say the name of the rabbi. The Gemara says, I want to tell you, you know who the Mishnah, author of the Mishnah is? Reb Meir. So Meir. The Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Ha'oseh sukkato al gabi behema. A person who made a sukkah on top of an animal. Let's say he took a pair of horses, and he put doors on the backs of the horses to serve as a floor of the sukkah. And he placed some partitions on the side, plus some walls, and he put some schach. So now he has a sukkah, like the same way you have a sukkah on top of a wagon or on top of a boat. So the wagon, so to speak, is the animal. He made a sukkah on top of in a way that the walls are not going to fall down. I mean, Tosfos has the case was you actually place poles on the ground, and but you use the animal the animal's in the middle, poles on the ground, right? It's a pole here, animal in the middle, and you put the schach on top of the poles, but you were using the animal as the ground where you're going to be standing on.
Rabbi, isn't an animal tameh?
Right. Okay. Good morning, Adam. An animal, I mean, when you're saying animal is tameh, there might be some things, maybe al pi Kabbalah, that you might refer to an animal as tameh. But an animal that's alive, an animal that's alive is not tameh.
But doesn't it go it goes to the bathroom? How could it be?
Right. The fact that, but it doesn't. Meaning, we're not using the animal for the schach, not the cover of the sukkah. That would be invalid. It has to be something that grows from the ground. And we're talking about the animal being used as the floor of the sukkah. You're going to go ahead and you're going to place the sukkah on top of the. It's not a easy. A guy says, you know what, I have to travel, and you know what, and it's the holiday of Sukkot, and I want to go ahead and I'll take the sukkah with me, like the Chabad has the Chabad machine. the Chabad Sukkot on the Chabad mobiles, right?
The mitzvah tank.
Mitzvah tank. So now the guy says, I want to go ahead and do such a thing for my animal with my tank. Can I make a sukkah on top of my animal? Good morning. So what Jaime is saying at morning, Simon, Jaime is saying about Tumah, a lot of people might not want to have certain pets in their house, certain things for animals because of certain mystical things. Halachically, we find the Gemara that says you're not allowed to raise a telef ra, a dog that's like dangerous type of dog, a dog that could hurt people. You're not allowed to have such a dog in your house. There's a famous story in the Gemara that a person had that type of dog, a dog that has the ability to hurt people. Sounds like not like a real pup, not like a little puppy, a real dog that could hurt people. And a pregnant woman was passing by, and the owner of the dog said to the pregnant woman, "Don't worry, I removed the teeth of the dog." The lady said, "It's already too late. I felt the fetus, the baby moved. She already had a miscarriage by the time, because of the fear that she had from that causes that has the ability to cause a miscarriage." So the Gemara says a person cannot raise a dog that's a dangerous dog in their house. That's one thing, but whether it's appropriate to have these animals, I don't know if you're coming from that angle of Tumah when you say Tumah.
No. I'm saying, how could you have a mitzvah on top of an animal that would make it unclean?
Oh, so that's what you're saying. Okay, so as long as the place is, the animal, the doors are on top of the back of the animal. So as long as the animal the area is it's clean, you don't smell anything, and maybe you don't see anything. So that should it should be good according to you're right. Any halachot that apply when there's feces around or that would be an issue. But as long as there's no feces around, as long as there's no bad smell, so technically it should be good.
Let's give Rabbi Meir a demerit for a bad example.
I don't know. I don't know if we're going to give him there for a bad example. We'll give him it for being creative. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda posel. Rabbi Yehuda says that this is not a kosher sukkah. A sukkah on top of the back of an animal is not kosher. What's his reason? So the Gemara says, "My time is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, you're the chidush. You're saying a novel. You're telling me it's no good. Now, what's your source? Why is the sukkah no good?" So the Gemara says, "Amakra." The pasuk says, "Chag haSukkot ta'aseh lecha shivat yamim." It's a holiday of Sukkot for 7 days, right? We know we have to be in a sukkah. It means to say, any time during the 7-day period of Sukkot, if you're having a meal, you're having bread, your bread meal, you need to find yourself in a sukkah, right? The mitzvah of sukkah applies for 7 days. Chalamoed, right? The intermediate days, which this year you have a big week of intermediate days. It's going to be from Monday to Friday, because the holiday comes down on Shabbat and Sunday, just like Rosh Hashanah comes out Shabbat and Sunday. If you're going to have a sandwich, you want to have a real meal, you have to have a sukkah for that meal during Chalamoed. That you can't have you want to have a salad outside the sukkah, fine. Technically, you can have a salad outside the sukkah, but you want to have a bread meal outside the sukkah. You can't do that anytime during the holiday of Sukkot, right? So he says, but the pasuk says it's a sukkah you should make for 7 days. So he understands that the sukkah has to have a minimum life span ability to a potential of a 7-day potential. If you make a sukkah that you can't go into one of the days, there's something stopping you from going into the sukkah. Namely here, an animal. You can't go ahead and go on top of an animal. You can't use an animal on Shabbat. You can't ride an animal on Shabbat. You can't walk on top of an animal on Shabbat or on Yom Tov. So this sukkah will not be able to be used on the holiday itself or on Shabbat. It will only be able to be used, meaning this sukkah would only be able to use on the intermediate days. The same way we had in the Mishnah that says if you make a sukkah on top of a tree, you can't go ahead and use it on the Shabbat Yom Tov, because you can't go on a tree on Shabbat Yom Tov. So now, so therefore, he says this sukkah would not be valid because I can't use the sukkah on Yom Tov. I have a structure that I just made, right, Shimon, and I can't use it on Shabbat Yom Tov because I can't go on top of the animal on Shabbat Yom Tov. If the doors are resting on top of the animal, it's called using the animal on Shabbat. We don't use it. We don't ride an animal, go on top of an animal on Shabbat Yom Tov. We, in general. I told you, Shimon, he's traveling. He's traveling. He's going from place A to place B. He wants to have a sukkah with him wherever he goes. He has places to go. He has people to meet. So he's a traveling. You're back in the old days. You're traveling. You have a few day trip. And you want to have a sukkah, and you want to have a sukkah ready. Okay, so that's a good question. So Tosfos has a simple way. Tosfos says that you actually put the boards and the walls of the sukkah. Tosfos says you went ahead and you placed poles around the animal, and you put schach and made it high. And let's say you put boards and you put but the animal is going to be your ground. You wanted you made the animal as your ground. Let's say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The animal, let's say the sukkah was the ground where you are, what you want is a tough place, whatever the issue of to stand on, and you made the animal to serve as your ground of your sukkah, where you're going to stand on. Right. So according to Tosfos, again,
imagine if you know a very big animal or a big horse or a big donkey, and you just kind of you build a very, very small, because it only needs to be.
I cannot imagine. Can you imagine?
Like what is
Sukkah itself, remember, a sukkah, the inch is 7 tefach, it's 28 inches by 28 inches. But you only need something that's 20, the interior.
Imagine like a little bamboo 28 inches, bamboo 28 inches, bamboo 28 inches, bamboo 28 inches. And I put a little thing around me, it's like a box like this, and
but it's made 20 inches travel. It's like
this.
How you can feed
Again, there's a height. You made a height. The height is 10 tefachim, like 10 tefachim. Minimum of, let's say, around 40 inches tall. So imagine. Well, let's say we'll take Tosfos at that. Rashi's case seems. Rashi says you took 2 horses and you put door on top of the back of the horses, and then somehow you placed the walls on top of that, and then on top of that you put
You need to carry door with you, thinking ahead of time that you're traveling in support. You carry on the donkey two doors. You got to carry a whole bunch of stuff. You got to carry a whole bunch of material to wrap around.
He's ready to roll. He's doing whatever.
Might as well stay home. Why you travel?
He has places to go. So what's the issue here? What'd you say? So Rameir says, the Gemara says, "My tender Yehuda, Amakra, Chag HaSukkot Tasvach HaShivat Yamim." It has to be a sukkah that could be used. You have a sukkah that there's nothing wrong with you going and using that sukkah for 7 days. But sukkah haruya l'shivash masukkah. A sukkah that fits for 7 days is called a sukkah. But sukkah she'ein haruya l'shiva, a sukkah that's not be able to be used for 7 days, namely this sukkah, you can't go into it on Yom Tov. You can't go on top of this animal on Yom Tov because it's mukseh. I mean, you can't ride an animal on Yom Tov or on Shabbat. So therefore, you can't use an animal on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So therefore, you can't. Right. But there's another issue that the Chachamim are concerned that if you go on top of the animal, maybe you're going to go pull something off a tree to help you in leading the animal and riding the animal, and therefore the rabbis made a rabbinic restriction that you can't go on top of the animal, even though you're not working the animal. It's not carrying a load or anything like that. Okay, in this case, maybe it is, according to the way. Okay, so the Gemara says, but carrying a load would be if it would carry it the Dalan Amot. But if the animal is stationary, it's not called work. Even if you put it on a Torah level. So the Gemara says, therefore, he says, the sukkah is not a kosher sukkah. It's an invalid sukkah. What's wrong with the sukkah? A sukkah that's made in a way that my hands are tied. I am not able to use this sukkah.
It's only
One of the
valid-
days,
only valid.
the only allowance
It's only valid.
for Chalamoid is not a sukkah. That's what he said. Same thing Tosfos points out. It's just,
Can you get into a bus? Like, let's say-
again, so you're saying, so very good. So according to this,
you wouldn't really, would you get into a car even if it's off on Shabbat? Is that not really correct?
I'm saying, so let's say he wouldn't be able, to go. First of all, the halacha follows the opinion that says you could do it on top of the camel. Now, what's the reason? Look what the Gemara says. Why? And we'll probably do the same thing for the car. Why? The Gemara says, Rameya, Hanami midaraita mirzechasi. He agrees. You can make yourself comfortable. Okay? You're doing the old-fashioned way that they used to stand when they learned. Until the people got weaker. When people got weaker, that's when they started to sit down. So the Gemara says, Min Torah, this sukkah is valid on a Torah level. Why is it? Why? Because the injunction, the prohibition for going on top of an animal on Shabbat or Yom Tov is a rabbinic prohibition. So on a Torah level, I would be able to go ahead, and the same thing was probably with the truck. On a Torah level, I could walk on top of a truck on Shabbat. I can't on a Torah. I can't ride the truck on Shabbat. But can I walk on top of a truck on Shabbat and Yom Tov? Technically, if I have a truck and I want to walk, I walk on top of the truck, climb on top of the truck. Technically, rabbinically, I have issues, but on a Torah level, what? So there's no that shouldn't be a problem. That wouldn't be. It's not right. But there's different. An animal that moves is a concern. You might come to pick off a branch from a tree. That would be, let's say, an issue with the animal. Or so therefore, since on a Torah level, this structure is be able to be used for 7 days, so therefore, it's not invalid to be used during Chol Hamoed. It doesn't invalidate the sukkah. The sukkah is not considered an invalid sukkah because the rabbi said I can't use it on Shabbat and Yom Tov. The only thing that will invalidate, meaning I can't use it on Shabbat and Yom Tov. That's true. But the Chol Hamoed, the question is that you're going to label this sukkah, I can't use the sukkah even in Chol Hamoed, even during the intermediate days, because why? Because rabbinically, I can't use it on Shabbat and Yom Tov. The fact that on a Torah level, I could use it on Shabbat and Yom Tov to be on top of this animal, so therefore it's considered on a Torah level that this sukkah is fit for 7 days, so therefore it's a valid sukkah. It's not considered an invalid sukkah. Right. So according to one opinion, I don't think. I definitely don't think it's in the. I presume it could lead to different problems if you go on top of it on Shabbat and Yom Tov. But at the end of the day, the law follows definitely on a Torah level. You can walk on top of it on a Torah level. Meaning, let's say if there's no lights going on, somehow you would close the lights, won't go on of the car, of the truck when you open up the doors of the truck. Or let's say everything was open before Shabbat, the truck doors were open, and now you technically the issue of going on it would be a rabbinic issue. It looks like you're going to drive the car. It has maradayin going onto a truck on Shabbat. But on a Torah level, there's no problem to walk onto a truck on Shabbat. A truck that's stationary, you walk onto the truck. There's a rabbinic issue. But since on a Torah level it's fit, there's no Torah problem for you to go onto it. So therefore it's called a sukkah. This opinion says it's called a sukkah that's fit on a Torah level to use for 7 days. And therefore I'm allowed to use it. It's still considered a kosher sukkah. So the Gemara continues. The Gemara says, again, on a Torah level, it is fit. It's Rabbanan hu degazi ba. The rabbis who made a gezerah that to protect us, that we shouldn't go unless we go ahead and violate the Shabbat by going ahead and picking a branch off the tree. talking about the rabbi's gezerat, this Shabbat, as you know, we do not blow the shofar this Shabbat. Why don't we blow the shofar this Shabbat? The Torah says, in the 7th month, the first day of the month, you're supposed to blow the shofar. So the Torah also says that the rabbis, you should listen to the rabbis, that the rabbis should create a protection for the Torah. Because the rabbis, right, Mr. Haber, they have to make sure that people don't violate the Torah. So they make enactments and laws. One of the jobs of the rabbis is to protect the Torah. On Shabbat, if you don't have, in places where there's no eruv, places that are considered a public domain on a Torah level, there's a biblical prohibition. One of the 39 malachot on Shabbat is carrying. If you go and you carry in a place that's considered a public domain on a Torah level, you're violating one of the 39 malachot on Shabbat. And the rabbis were concerned, most probably they saw, that if Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbat, let's say if I do not know how to blow shofar, I might go to somebody, I would bring him a shofar to blow for me. Or if I need help in showing me how to do it right, so I might come to carry a shofar on Shabbat. Because I might come to carry a shofar on Shabbat, we don't blow shofar on Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
They made this rabbinic law to protect the violation of Shabbat. Now, let me ask you a question. If he would have went ahead and he would have forgotten and he would have carried the shofar on Shabbat, it would have been done unintentionally. It would have been an unintentional violation of the Shabbat. I forgot that I couldn't carry. Just to protect any unintentional violation of Shabbat. That's how important Shabbat is, that the rabbi said you do not blow the shofar on Shabbat. That's a rabbinical protection, and the rabbis have the power, the Gemara explains, to override the Torah in this type of way, by telling you to be inactive.
It's not really overriding, it's adding concepts.
But the Torah says the Torah says you're supposed to take the shofar, and the same thing is by Sukkot. What? Yom Truah Tiyeh Lachem. Right, but the Chacham say don't blow today. The Chacham say you don't blow today, and because the rabbis have the ability to tell you not to do something, even if the Torah says to do something, as long as the rabbis are telling you to be inactive. The rabbis are not telling you to do an action, an open action. The Torah says don't do this, and the Torah says, and you're doing something against it. The Torah says do this. Now the rabbis think to stay away and don't even do it. This Shabbat, protecting from carrying, exactly, and the same thing. But everybody, right? But not everybody. Not everybody comes to shul for the shofar. Someone wasn't in synagogue. Not everybody has a synagogue near them, and therefore, as a concern, that person might come to carry the shofar. It's the same thing by lulav. Lulav is going to come out on Shabbat. Shabbat, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Sukkot and Shabbat, and we don't take the lulav the first day. Why don't we take the lulav the first day? Because we're afraid that you might come to carry the lulav on Shabbat. But so we have to realize how serious forgetting that it's Shabbat and doing a sin, doing an act. See, if a guy goes ahead and he bumps his hand into a light and you're walking on Shabbat, that's not a real issue, because there was no intention to do anything. You were just walking and you bumped into the light. It's good to have a light cover and all that, but when you intentionally carry, you also forgot it with Shabbat. That type of act would have brought a korban chatat. In the time of the Beit HaMikdash, if a person you would bring called a sin offering if you unintentionally violated the Shabbat. One of two ways. What do you say? That's called shogeg. What's called shogeg? I forgot it was Shabbat. Now, do you ever forget your name? How did you forget it was Shabbat? You forgot it was Shabbat. That means you need a little bit of chiz. You mean there's a weakness. There's a weakness. You have a weakness if you forget it was Shabbat, right? If you have to bring a korban, or I didn't know I wasn't allowed to do it. Why didn't you know? Not knowing is not an excuse. But therefore, since the person might forget, therefore the rabbis made that law. So, and therefore we have to appreciate Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Rosh Hashanah. We don't have the shofar, but we have all the tefillot, we have all the davenings, and we have all the things, and that should help us do the proper repentance. I want to wish everyone a beautiful and a ksiva and a beautiful, happy and healthy. I'm happy helping you to everybody. Thank you so much.
You're not here.
Yehuda Gian, I think is going to cover, unless if you're going to be, maybe you'll cover. Okay.